to talk about as per each specific case per se. It would be recalled that the Minister of Police, in response to the issue of the so-called political killings, established a national team which was to be constituted by various sort of units or different wings of policing, if I may put it that way. One of which was the question of the... That person speaks like me. I don't know what's happening, but nevertheless. One of which was the question of... one component of it was to be the crime intelligence, detective services, the organized crime section of the Hawks being part of it as well, and other specialized sort of components were to be part of that team. And indeed, that team has been established, but also per each particular province, we also have got focus teams that are also looking into the issue of these particular cases as and when they arise. And let me just also hasten to say that I'm informed that the National Prosecuting Authority is also working on us in terms of processing and fast-tracking these particular cases, and there is a particular sort of team or grouping of prosecutors that are going to be focused specifically around these particular matters. Now, the bulk of the so-called political killings took place in KZN. However, there have also been incidences in other provinces. So the presentation that I'm going to run is going to be staggered into two. I'll start off with the 5 other provinces and then zoom back into the KZN issue. In Gauteng, we stand at one particular case that arose on the 19th of June at Pretoria Showgrounds when there was an ANC media briefing regarding the mayoral candidate. We arrested one particular suspect that has been subsequently released on bail, and the case is being heard on the 11th of August 2016. In Northwest, we also have one case that arose on the 18th of March in Doornkop section in an area called Mabologa. It's a case of murder. And that matter is still under investigation and no arrests have been made.
Just spell that
Mabologa. It's Maboloka. In the Eastern Cape, in the area, in the district of Tsolo, there is a case of murder arising out of a shooting incident that took place at a place called Jingo Township. We arrested 6 suspects, and the case is being remanded to the 24th of September 2016, and there are also further investigations pertaining to this particular case. Mpumalanga also has one case registered with the Pinar police station, a case of murder that arose on the 25th of May 2016 in the area called Salvation. No arrest has been made and the case is under investigation. So those are the provinces that also have been affected in regard to the issue of the so-called political killings. We now then go to a province that has quite a bulk of these particular cases, and that is the province of KZN. In KZN, we established a task team, and that task team has, we identified the set of objectives. For an example, 4 of them was to immediately attend to and investigate as well as prosecute all the reported incidents of politically motivated crimes in KZN. The second objective was to implement the multidisciplinary Troika methodology consisting of intelligence gathering, crime investigation and prosecution. The third objective of that testing was to ensure that those who commit politically motivated crimes are arrested, and our standing position is that we shall always object to bail being granted to such suspects, and that such suspects are prosecuted as speedily as possible to instill public confidence and stability. The fourth area is to create an atmosphere that is conducive for free and fair elections. So those are the standing objectives of this particular task team. The task team is composed of 7 detective members, 5 crime intelligence members, 4 members from the Hawks, in other words, DPCI, and 11 members from the taxi violence task team. Now, we felt it was important. The taxi violence task team was a task team that has always been there, but we felt that it was important to pull them into the equation, precisely because you may find that it's possible that one particular case has got more or less similar kind of suspects in one form or the other and so on, precisely because in most of these particular incidences you will find that there are hitmen that are also being utilized, and some of those hitmen are also operating within the taxi industry. Now, in summary, to date, we have had 25 politically related violent incidents that have been reported with the South African Police Service. 14 of those cases, 14 of the 25, are murder and attempted murder cases. 2 of those are cases of arson, and 2 of the 25 relate to public violence cases. And 2 other cases, they relate to assault, GBH, and pointing of firearm. 1 case relates to damage to property, and the other case, 1 case relates to culpable homicide. Now, the question arises, what is it that has been done in relation to the 25 incidences that have been reported to the police? What is it that the police has done or have done, the South African Police Service, in relation to the cases reported to us? Insofar as the murder cases are concerned, we have had 7 arrests effected, and on attempted arrests, we effected 2 arrests. On the possible on the possession of unlicensed firearms, we have had 3 arrests. On the cases of public violence, we have had 8 arrests. On cases of assault, GBH, in other words, grievously body harm, and pointing of a firearm, we have had 3 arrests. We then take you to a section that deals with these particular cases, per each case. It will be recalled that in Mehlokwazulu High School in Mbali Township, which is just outside Pietermaritzburg, we had a case of double murder that arose after the ANC had its BGM meeting there. And 2 ANC members were shot and killed. Now, for that case, which also involves the question of possession of unlicensed firearm and ammunition, we arrested 3 suspects. 2 of them are specifically were successfully linked and identified as being linked to the 2 murders in question. 1 suspect could not be necessarily linked to the double murders in question. And this particular case is also being heard on the 23rd of August 2016, and there are still further investigations also relating to this specific case. In the area of Njanga, on the 24th of January 2016, there was a case of murder and attempted murder that arose, and that issue arose of a conflict that took place a physical conflict that took place between members of the South African Communist Party and the African National Congress members in the area of Njanga. And for those for those particular cases, murder and attempted murder, we arrested 7 suspects, and their case was being heard on the 22nd of July, 2016. And of course, there are still matters that are for further investigation pertaining to this very same case, and working together with the National Prosecuting Authority. We also have a case of attempted murder in the area of Osizweni. Osizweni is a place located in Newcastle, wherein there was the question of a conflict that took place also in a vicinity or at the venue of Ezamekaya Primary School, where there was a meeting of the ANC. We arrested 1 suspect, and the case was being heard and before court on the 22nd of July, 2016, and of course there are further investigations that are continuing pertaining to this case. Montclair is a place just outside of Durban, in a hostel called SJ Smith in Durban. There was a case of possession of unlicensed firearm that arose, and the matter was being heard. No, the matter is being heard tomorrow on the 27th of July, 2016. It's today. 27th is today.
Yes.
Excuse me, I'm getting very old. Sorry. 27th July, 2016. So it's being heard today. Now, this case, for instance, or some of these cases that are like this of possession of unlicensed firearm and so on, would arise as and when, for instance, police would have detected or picked up information that there was something that is afoot or being planned and so on, and then raids are conducted and so on, and then we discovered some of these weapons, for an example, and therefore cases of unlicensed firearms would then arise. There is also another case in the same area, SJ Smith Hostel, and of a possession of an AK-47 assault rifle and live ammunition. That case is also being heard today, and that affects a different suspect altogether. It's also possession of unlicensed firearm. Now, Mountain Rise is a place in the north of Pietermaritzburg. A case of public violence was registered with us on the 24th of April 2016. It's a case in which wherein protesters are alleged to have blocked the roads and burned tires and so on, but also they burnt the councillor's office as well as her house and so on. So we arrested 3 suspects for such. The protesters were also demanding the removal of the councillor in question. And for those we arrest, for such a case of public violence, we then arrested 5 suspects. In Njanga, a place located between Maritzburg and Durban, a matter of assault, GPH, and pointing of firearm arose precisely because on the 31st of May 2016, at a place called Ishasha Tavern in Njanga, it is alleged that one complainant belonging to the Communist Party was attacked by 3 other people who are said to be affiliated to the ANC with a brick and threatened with a firearm and so on. For such a case, we have had to arrest 3 suspects, and the matter was being heard on the 21st of July, 2016. In Umlazi, which is a place just outside the township, outside Durban, a case of murder arose on the 16th of April. And in this particular case, we haven't had success insofar as arrest, but the matter is still under investigation as we speak. And it's a case of murder that took place in a hostel called Cliplands, just outside of Durban. In Sundumbili, on the 22nd of May, 2016, at a place called no, not Maitop, yeah. The issue of damage to property was reported with us, and that matter is also under investigation. In Umhlali, a case of arson. Umhlali, just a place outside Durban, on the 7th of June. There was also a case of damage to property in the sense that an unknown suspect bombed the house of a councillor. This matter is still under investigation. In Harding, in the South Coast, there is a case of assault GPH as of the 10th of May 2016, wherein it's alleged that there were two groups of the ANC that were conducting a door-to-door campaign, but for some other reason, one group began a fight amongst themselves, and there are cases of assaults that were then registered as a result of that fight. In Nongoma, a case of murder which occurred on the 16th of May 2016 at Mapopa Road. A councillor was shot by two unknown attackers. No arrests have been made, and the matter is still under investigation. In Howick, a case of murder was registered with us on the 3rd of June 2016. It's said that the victim is a former councillor from the IFP, and is said to be have been quite outspoken as a community member and quite against the nomination of an ANC candidate for councillorship and so on. But currently it's known this particular person not to have been affiliated to any political party. In Plessis-Laer, which is a place outside Maritzburg, a case of murder was registered on the 1st of June 2016. Now, it is alleged that the victim was approaching, just arrived at home and was opening the gate and so on, and therefore was then attacked and killed on the spot. Now, the matter is under investigation. We have indeed activated also crime intelligence to gather information from a different angle altogether relating to this particular matter. It is also suspected that one particular individual is suspected to have hired hitmen to kill this particular victim. So these are matters that are also still being followed. A case of murder also in Plessis-Laer, registered on the 1st of June 2016. The victim in question was traveling with his children, got shot at and killed. The matter is still under investigation, no arrests yet. But what we have picked up, for an example, is that this particular victim was also a witness under Section 205 in a fraud and corruption case. And it is also said that he was going to give evidence against two former employees of the Department of Agriculture. So we're following all sorts of leads relating to this particular case. In Ezakheni, there is a case of murder and attempted murder that was registered with us on the 13th of February 2016. It's no arrest. The matter is still under investigation, but there are pointers towards an intergroup conflict of sorts between two particular sort of families. So we are currently picking up bits and pieces of information from informers as well relating to this particular dynamic insofar as the question of this so-called intergroup conflict, which affects two families there and so on, but seems to be taking a political sort of manifestation as well. In the same area, a case of attempted murder in Ezakheni was also registered, in this particular case, for an example, there was also attempt there was a shooting sort of incident that targeted the Ezakheni mayor's bodyguard in that part of the township. He got shot at, so no arrest, still under investigation, but also, again, like the previous case, there is what is being alluded to as intergroup conflict of sorts that we're also following through. In Bergville, a prominent councillor belonging to the NFP, a case of attempted murder was registered in April, on 16th April this year. No arrest has been made. The matter is still under investigation. There are a number of other things that are also coming through, and we're interviewing the very same councillor who has also his own suspicions about what possibly are the possible sort of motives in this particular case and so on. In Madadeni, a case of murder and attempted murder, we haven't also effected any particular arrest here. It's a case that arose on the 8th of May, 2016, wherein unknown gunmen attacked ANC members in one particular lodge in that particular township in Madadeni. And then you had victims out of this particular incident. Now, DPCI, as well as the crime intelligence, they are running some aspects of the investigation also from a different angle. We need to get some information, from cell numbers and everything else and so on. But also, putting together the identikit out of the witness accounts of the possible sort of attackers involved in this particular incident. In Harding, in the area of Santombe, on the 18th of I hope it's June, not 18th of July. I think it's 18th of July, yes. A case of murder was also registered with us after an ANC candidate was shot at and killed in that area. Now, the matter is under investigation. No arrests yet. In Ladysmith, the case of murder that occurred at Centenary Road on the 18th of July, the case is still under investigation, led by DPCI. And Tlantleni, a case of murder in the area of Pomeroy, Matre, Msing. An NFP councillor was also shot at and killed. That matter is still under investigation, no arrests yet. In Hlobane, just outside Vryheid, a case of a culpable homicide has been registered with us, and the matter is also under investigation, and there seem to be quite a number of other accounts that are coming through pertaining to this particular matter. In Gwambonambi, specifically in Gwamtetwa, a case of arson in in June was registered with us, in which the ANC councillor basically alleges that her house was burnt down and petrol bombed. The matter is still under investigation and no arrests. In Madadini, a case of murder was also registered with us as of the 2nd of July 2016. The matter is still under investigation and is a case that is being specialized upon by DPCI as well. In Gwanongoma, a case of murder in the area of Jodovuna area, Gwanongo. On the 25th of June, a victim was allegedly killed whilst having attended or coming back from a particular traditional ceremony and so on. But in this case, it is also stated that this particular victim was not the intended victim, but this victim is a cousin to a particular councillor belonging to or IFP candidate, if I may put it that way. So the matter is still under investigation and no arrests yet. Now, those are the cases pertaining to the work that the South African Police Service has done insofar as the 25 cases that have been registered with us, cases of murder, attempted murder, assault, GPH, and other cases, of course. And, of course, we continue to investigate to follow leads on a number of these particular cases. We are, as I had said, that we're also working with prosecution authorities in fast-tracking some of these particular cases, amongst others. And indeed, we will continue to do what is necessary to ensure that these matters just don't go on unresolved. They have got to be resolved. We are also closely monitoring developments around the Glip Hostel in Durban, which has been quite problematic for quite some time. For a period of time, we had some degree of stability and contained tensions in that particular hostel. But we are seeing, it's reported that there is creeping back in of some tension of sorts around the hostel and so on. We are grateful that the Premier in KZN and the MEC for safety in that particular province are quite close to that situation. In fact, as of the past weekend, there were peace initiatives and meetings that were then convened under the auspices of the Premier of KZN to try and make sure that we have peace around Gliplands, specifically in that hostel. So I would like to leave it at that for now, unless the two generals here would want to make some sort of additions as well, if any. Okay.
Thanks, Minister. We will take the questions. We'll start with you. Rahima. I've forgotten Paul, yes. And Lester. Okay, we'll take those four for now. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Yanan Nubel for the Sunday Times. Minister, the number of people killed in these alleged political killings, what is the grand total? And secondly, are you expecting any violence after close results? I mean, nobody wants to predict the future in this country. You have to be a fool. But it does seem as though we may have some close results. And in Port Elizabeth, Nelson Mandela Bay in 2011, after the very close result we saw there, the then chair of the ANC in the region called, for instance, for the burning down of a certain newspaper's building, as you may recall. Are there any steps in place to curtail violence in areas of close result? And finally, what steps are being taken to ensure that especially in volatile areas, people will be able to vote on voting day? We know there were a few areas where people couldn't register. What are your plans?
Thank you, Minister. Rahima Esop from Eyewitness News. Just a few questions. The first one, a simple point of clarity, just for my own understanding. Are you saying there were 25 violent incidents in KZN only, or in the country? That's just a point of clarity. Secondly, the task team, if I'm not mistaken, it was set up last month. Why only last month? Why was it not set up before that? And then I've lost my train of thought. You can just answer those questions. My mind is elsewhere.
Good day, Minister. Paul Vecchiato from Bloomberg. Just adding up the number of cases here, I get 22, not 25. Maybe I miscounted. Could you just clarify that for me, please? Secondly, you said 25. I count 25. 22 rather than 25. I don't know if 3 cases have been withdrawn or something. But then, secondly, what's the criteria used to say these are politically motivated murders? As far as I remember, the care system doesn't have a thing for saying political murder. So, and just looking at some of those cases there, the one that I recall, AK-47, that could be a pure case of criminality, whilst some of them are far more apparent, like the SACP and ANC supporters clashing or something like that. So what is your criteria to say this is it? And are we seeing an increase in these local elections compared to other elections like the 2014 national elections and the 2011 local elections? And then finally, if you don't mind, when investigating these cases, what has the cooperation been like from the various political parties? Are they cooperating with the police? Are they supplying the police with information? Or are they stalling? Thank you very much.
My question, Lester from ANC, is essentially a follow-up from Paul. Have you had any meetings with political parties, especially seeing that many of these cases involve the ANC? Has police had a meeting with the ANC regarding this issue?
Okay, Minister, if we can deal with this and then we'll take another round.
Did I call you Chester the other day? I think I did. No, thanks very much. I think you wanted some clarity about the number of cases. I've alluded to. Okay. I think I would have to come back to you on that one. I know, for an example, that I think in KZN alone, we have had about 13 of these cases, but specifically, I think, affecting the ANC. And I think, insofar as the NFP is concerned, there is one case thus far. The IFP, before this report, had, I think, one case, but possibly those numbers must have gone up a little bit in the past few days, because I also heard that in the beginning of was it this week or so, there was also allegedly another sort of shooting affecting IFP members and so on. So numbers will vary from time to time. I should think so. Now, we don't have predictions about violence, whether violence will erupt given the closer results and so forth. In fact, I would venture to say that all political parties have a political responsibility to ensure that all political management issues are properly handled, whether internal or from one party to the next and so forth. And that's why, for the example, remember that the parties participating in the elections, they sign up, onto a code of conduct, for example, the electoral code. And that's a significant sort of step, for an example, for parties to undertake. So I just do hope that, nothing really untoward will actually happen. Whether there are closer results or somebody lost and somebody won and so on, I don't think that should really, because if any of the negatives were to manifest, okay, that would be a blot on our democracy. The steps on the question of the voting day, we were quite committed as the South African Police Service in ensuring that we have peaceful elections in this country. We have successfully done that over the years. So we want to ensure that also, even in these particular local government elections, we experience the same as ordinary South Africans. Now, we have identified hotspots right across the country. And our nature of deployment and focus is going to be informed by the type of circumstance as per each area, for an example. So to just try and summarize this thing, suppose under normal circumstances we deploy 2 police officers per voting station when things are just normal and so on. But surely in a voting district where we have had cases of public violence, being consistently reported and emerging, surely we will not stick to 2 police officers per voting station per se. So we'll look at whether we have 4 or 6 and so on, and the nature of support sort of equipment that we will also require for such policing purposes and so on. So that's how we're looking at the issue of days building up to voting, and on the voting day and post the voting day as well. Why did we set up the task team last month? This month is called July. The other month before this one was June. Now, these particular matters started, in a sense, emerging round about June, the so-called political sort of related killings. And we felt that we needed to then mobilize all necessary sort of resources within the context and ambit of the South African Police Service to ensure that all necessary sort of skills and specialization is actually mobilized towards ensuring that we zoom into this particular problem. Now, I keep on saying so-called political, precisely because I think we're just simply short of, I should so suspect that perhaps people use the term political killings because they're short of the actual correct definition of sorts. It's a fortunate term to use in a sense, but it's in a simple term. In simple terms, it's just the question of incidences arising out of political processes. In a way, that's what the issue is really when it comes to this. And I suppose it then perhaps attempts to also deal with the question of what criteria do we then use to then say this is political, this is whatever. And because I'm just saying, the question of whether a matter is political can only be confirmed once you would have run through the full course of whether a particular incident of murder and attempted murder was indeed politically motivated or not. For now, it's something that says you have suspicions that say Rahima was taken out on the basis that she is a candidate and she also wants to be a candidate. So those are allegations that are out there, and therefore That's just simply a categorization in that sort of sense. You will realize that, for instance, in one of the cases I spoke to here, is that indeed one of the fellows killed was a candidate, for councillorship. But that candidate was also appearing on a Section 205 matter, a fraud and corruption kind of witness. Now, so so clearly, now the issue that is beginning to emerge is whether or not the assassination, was it really politically motivated, or was it because the gentleman in question was a state witness against two former employees in a corruption and fraud sort of charge, for an example. So that's a matter that the investigation itself will essentially sort of clarify, and as well subsequently your court processes. Are we... The question of increase in violence, I don't know whether we are thinking that we think that there's going to be increase in violence and whatever. I certainly don't think so. And I think whilst we're looking into these issues from a policing sort of angle, there is also the question of both political and social responsibility that all of us have, to ensure that we do not have cases of violence emanating from any of our processes, for an example, be it election-related or any other social activity that we embark upon as South Africans. We must ensure that, we always stress on the need for peaceful processes and so on. So I certainly do not predict that there's going to be an increase in violence and violent activities and so on. Cooperation from political parties. The fact of the matter is that I think we are seeing maturing sort of stages of democratic sort of conduct, basically, in South Africa, and political parties have cooperated with us in around investigation of these particular cases and so on. So we haven't had problems where political parties are not cooperating precisely because of whatever reason or the other, but we've always enjoyed the sort of cordial kind of relations with relevant political parties as and when we're investigating some of these particular cases. Have we met with them? No, we haven't. No, we haven't. Ours is to focus on what has occurred and is being presented before us. So if you have a case of murder and attempted murder, our work as the South African Police Service is to then delve into that, find the culprits, and of course, take them through the processes of our law. So we have not met with political parties. As I say, political parties are governed by the Electoral Code, and all political parties that are participating in the elections, they are part of the pledge insofar as the Electoral Code is concerned. Thank you very much.
Shall I take Pretoria first? Yeah, let's do Pretoria. Pretoria?
Yes, we do have questions in Pretoria.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, Slee from Jacaranda FM News. Minister, it's just a question of clarity. I'm very confused about the total number, because I thought I heard that you said there were 25 political killings in KZN, but then, or is this in total? That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Let me.
That would be all for.
That would be all for Pretoria. Let me clarify that question, because I think it's a question that was also I started off with 5 other cases affecting 5 different provinces. Okay? Now, and that's not 25, 5. So it's 1 in Gauteng, 1 in Mpumalanga, 1 in Northwest, 1 in the Eastern Cape. Is it 4? Okay, so 4. Sorry. Now, then I came back to the specific province, and that is KZN. And I said that in KZN, we have 25 cases, not of political killings, but 25 cases of the so-called politically related sort of incidences. Okay, so you'll realize that as and when I ran through the tabulation, for an example, I pointed out to 14 cases of murder, 7 of which you have had arrests, and other cases of attempted murder, 2 cases, in 2 incidences we have had arrests. And then, of course, we had issues of damage to property, assault, possession of unlicensed firearm. Those are cases, all of them, grouped under the 25 as cases of the so-called politically related kind of incidences, really. So it's not 25 political killings. Am I clear now, both to Pretoria and... Okay.
So by that count, if there are 14 cases, one of which was a double murder, does that mean 15 suspected killings by the past weekend? Because as you correctly said, you didn't factor in those IFP people in Howick, I think it was on Monday. No? So shall we then agree that the number is 14 or 15 on the understanding that it's not always clear whether it's a political killing?
No. I did allude to the fact that the numbers would certainly vary because this week is not part of this report, and yet there is, if I'm not mistaken, there are 2 other cases that I hear to be of politically related kind of nature and so forth. So it would necessarily, this particular figure, exclude those particular 2 cases that are still a subject of investigation, really. But yeah, all I was trying then saying is that the 25 is not political killings. It's 25 cases of so-called
murders and attempted murders. Now, how much of those 14 were murders and how much?
So the question is very basic. It is how many people have been killed in alleged election-related violence in this election cycle?
I'm not sure whether I'm getting this now. Murder and attempted murder cases is 14 cases.
But just break it down. 14 murder, how many bodies?
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Minister. First, I wanted to go back to the question that was raised in relation to what makes it a political killing, since the case doesn't provide for such a provision. Obviously, was it Paul?
Yes.
Paul, you were correct. On the case, you will not find anything saying political murder. But we do these linkages with the target, the victim. What are the circumstances surrounding that particular killing? What is the profile of that particular victim? Thus, we will then extract from our systems anything that suggests in this period that the motive may have been this. So, as the Minister correctly indicated, the investigation may deliver an outcome which suggest the opposite. I think the minister mentioned one example of someone who was a 205 witness, and at the same time, this person is a candidate. Now the question is, was it really about his candidature, or was it about him or her being a witness? So you can't come to a conclusion at this stage to say, yes, it is so. Why is it important that we speak to this? Because every time someone is being killed, it is the community, it will be the media, it will be political parties which will be saying political killings. Now we are trying to assist in contextualizing it and say, what is it that we have? Now, I also don't want us to be breaking calculators in terms of the 25 versus the 22. The minister is very clear. There are 25 political related incidents. Now, in the 25, we are making a breakdown of the 14, which is murder and attempted murder. And I know, I think you ask a question to say 22 versus 25. Down there you have got assault GBH. We would have recorded a case now as assault GBH because of that person sustained injuries that brings him or her closer to death. Now, when we record it here, it is recorded as assault GBH. Later on, maybe that person unfortunately die. We then, on the system, you do not go and delete that assault GBH. So that one case, that one person who was assaulted here and died later on may be having two cases, but it is one particular victim. That's why you will not be able to come to 25 and 25. I thought that the purpose here is to just give you a picture of what is it that is happening in a country and what is it that we are managing. In as far as the bodies, at some point in KZN, we were on a count of 13. That was KZN. But as we said, the situation, what we are presenting may have been overtaken by events. Yesterday, for example, in the Eastern Cape, there is a candidate that was killed. That is not, unfortunately, accounted for in the figures that are presented to you today. Thanks, Minister. Maybe just the other thing that the Minister spoke to, I think there was a question, Paul, relating to our readiness. I think we have presented our position as the police and the security forces in as far as our readiness are concerned. And we had a pre-election, during the election deployment and post-election. And I think we have spoken to the numbers, if I can quickly get there, in terms of our deployment. We had communicated to the nation in as far as static, that is now those that will be manning the 22,612 voting stations. We will deploy 50,480 members. That's now static. In that, the minister also spoke to the risk level of the voting stations differs. We have got about 20,634 of those stations that we have categorized as low risk. There we will deploy 41,268 members. And we have got of 1,328 which will be categorized as medium risk. So the numbers in those stations will then increase, because if if all was equal, if every one of those stations were low risk, then we would have deployed the 41,000. So with those medium risk, we will have an increase by an additional 5,312 members. Then we have got about 650 of them that are categorized as high risk. An additional 3,900 members will be deployed there, and that will bring our total deployment at static, in other words, at a voting station, to the 50,480. We will also deploy about 22,612 vehicles, obviously, which will be moving members to the 22,612 stations, and about 45,224 members. So there are members that, for example, will be moving, as the minister indicated, they will be moving the material from the warehouses to the respective voting stations. So those members are not going to be static, so they will be doing delivery and they will be mobile in ensuring that there is visibility. We have got additional numbers in case we require such in some places. Thanks, Minister.
Thanks, General. May I finish with Pretoria once and for all? Is there still a question there?
Yes, there is one.
Okay, please, quickly.
All right, this is Muluku Mloto from Power FM. I just need clarity over the transportation of these ballot boxes. Do I understand you to be saying that all the ballot boxes from the voting stations to wherever they are taken, all of them across the country will be transported under the watchful eye of the police?
Is that it?
Yeah, that will be all for now.
Thank you. All right.
Hi, Chantal from the African News Agency. Just in terms of your hotspot areas, are most of them in KwaZulu-Natal? What are your hotspot provinces or cities? And will your specialized units also be on standby if there is trouble?
Minister, a few months ago you were here and you spoke about one of the first allegedly politically motivated cases. This was the reckless and inflammatory utterances by an opposition leader. Could you give us an update as to how that case is progressing, if it is still progressing? Are we any closer to bringing charges or dropping them for that matter? Where are we with regards to that particular matter? I'm referring to the Malema matter.
Thanks. I'll take her first before you, Paul. Before you, then you.
Good morning, Alice Steen from Media 24. Minister, can you maybe give an indication as to how all these cases, these politically related incidences, compare to the previous election in 2011? Is it more, or and what would you attribute this to? What makes this more volatile? Thanks.
Minister Paul Vecchiato from Bloomberg again. Just why has KwaZulu-Natal seen such the bulk of these political incidents? Could you give us some idea of what the reason is for that? And are you worried that it could creep to other parts of the country? If the precedent's been set there, it starts moving on to other parts. We have seen scattered, but not as many as Natal. And then, National Commissioner, from our calculations, just briefly, almost half the police force will be deployed over these elections, close to 100,000, static and mobile protection. That's going to put a heck of a manpower strain on the police over that period. Are you cooperating with municipal police forces as well? Are you roping them into the plan, and are you calling up reservists and that sort of thing? Thank you.
Paul from News 24. Just with regard to the incidents outside the KZN, those 4 incidents, were those all cases of murder?
In short, please.
I'll try my best. Marianne. It's Marianne Merton, Daily Maverick. I have a few questions, and it goes back to that so-called criteria which the Minister defined as incidents arising out of the political process as guiding the investigations into political killings. If that indeed, as the Minister insists, is the criteria, why are we not seeing in that list that you presented here the 2 murders of the EFF people at Tembisa near, I believe, Alexandra Hostel, plus the murder of an EFF person in Mpumalanga? Why has only 1 case of murder near Pina Salvation Area been registered as a murder when we all know that there's at least 2 on the record murders that are linked to some of the political contestation within the ANC in Mpumalanga? Similarly, I would like to understand why why the focus is in KZN, because we've had issues all across. And in Gauteng, certainly we have more than 1 case, unless that 1 case, because previously we had a ward councillor killed, and that was in February. But you've only listed here this case of June. So I'm really struggling in terms of whether this task team on political killings actually has an idea what it is meant to be doing, or whether it is simply a tool to be assisting in resolving ANC-related killings. Because while I understand the point you're making that the 2 IFP murders in KZN earlier in the week may have fallen without your purview, I mean, all of these are ANC matters, and other people have been killed from other political parties. Why are they not being investigated? Why are the injuries that have occurred on the election campaign trail in KwaZulu-Natal, not only involving the SACP, but also the EFF, as well as some of the issues around Gauteng and issues around the IFP in KwaZulu-Natal? Why are these not part, if indeed your criteria is incidents arising out of political contestation? And then just my curiosity, indulge me. Who are all these other uniformed members that have come along with you?
Andy, save the best for last, no? Okay.
Well, was that a representative view? Also covering now. Who are these members? These are police members. They are in uniform precisely because they are police members. I don't know why are they here? No, why are you here? So you can't then question the presence of police members. I mean, really, why should we have a problem with it? I don't see why you should have a problem in the first instance. In fact, you should be happy that at least they're sitting at the back there behind you, so you're safe, really. I just said we just emerged out of one important event in the area of Philippi, wherein 1,900 police officers were graduating to actually go out and be on the field. So I don't know why you should have a problem with the presence of the police, really. Now, the question in Pretoria about transportation of ballot boxes, it has always been standard practice that, for an example, the police, the IEC and other agencies, we work together in ensuring that we secure all election-related processes, including, amongst other things, the transportation of ballot boxes and the not warehousing, but ensuring that also the storage of such ballot boxes are secure, are properly secured, and so on. So we started that exercise, for instance, relating to this particular elections. We successfully delivered the transportation of ballot boxes and election-related material, for an example, for warehousing purposes in all provinces in the month of June. Now, hotspots are not only in KZN. I think somebody asked that question. Hotspots are not only in KZN. They're quite national. Not only in KZN. There are provinces, for an example, that have had, flare-ups from time to time and so on, and it's not only in KZN. So we've had, as I think the National Commissioner, the Acting National Commissioner alluded to this issue, the issue of having identified those particular hotspots and, of course, looked at the nature of deployment in terms of how we need to effectively deploy there. Now, will specialized units in the SAPS be also utilized and so on? It will really depend on what the nature of the material condition will be in a particular hotspot. That will then dictate how we therefore need to effectively deploy there. Around the when you say I came here to and spoke about one political related case at some point, it was not about investigations and arrests. It wasn't about that. It was about of course the statements that were made. Okay, so at a political level we had to deal with that particular issue, not necessarily that the matter was under investigation and there was a case and whatever. It wasn't that. We didn't say that. No. I'm not saying there wasn't a case. I'm saying I did not come here to brief you about a progress in an investigation relating to that case.
No, sir,
I didn't.
You spoke about the case then, and now I'm asking you to update.
I spoke about the incident, yes, but I didn't speak about the processes relating to investigation and how far we are with the investigation. And you seem to be suggesting that's what I did.
No, forgive me, perhaps I wasn't very clear, sir. You had spoken then about the matter, the reckless and inflammatory case that was being investigated by
Correct.
the police. And now I'm asking you if you could please provide an update progress on that particular matter that you raised in April. So how the investigations have progressed. Are we at the stage where we can possibly formally charge the individual, or are we going to look at maybe sort of dropping the provisional charge there? I'm essentially seeking an update on that, please, sir.
So you want to talk to that? No, you want? You may, you're at liberty if you want to talk to that.
I want us to always respect the role of the minister. He is not carrying dockets. He provides political leadership to the police. When we came here, the minister was addressing the issue of the statements and so on that were in the public domain, which were not helping our cause. And the minister, following engagement with both parties involved, requested that we be given space to deal with the matter. Now, I safely just going to say that the investigation is at an advanced stage. We are not going to pronounce on the outcome thereof now, because just as we came to communicate, we had spoken to both General Viri as well as MEC Plato. Our commitment is, once the report is available, to go back to both, and we will convene in a similar format in pronouncing what the outcome of that investigation is. But I am satisfied with the progress that has been made.
I think you conflating two different things, Commissioner. My matter was in the reckless and inflammatory speech of Julius Malema, when he said, we're going to bring the guns to the people. So yes, the battle of the gun, and that was the matter. I think you
maybe your problem was you were too vague. You should have been specific to allow us, because it is the two matters that we came here. We address both in this platform. So that's why I thought you were talking about that one.
The subsequent briefing, sir. But
Okay.
be that as it may,
Yeah.
I apologize for being vague. If you would afford me the opportunity to maybe to repose the question.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. In April, sir, Mr. Minister, you came here and you spoke at length about the dangers of reckless and inflammatory pronouncements that political leaders make within the context of a looming elections. Those statements were attributable to one person only. He had spoken about them. It was on record. And my question now today is, what is happening with regards to the investigation that was announced by your good office at the day? Or not announced, but you spoke about, you said the Hawks were investigating him, investigating reckless and inflammatory and dangerous speeches, basically. So not good within the context of what we're trying to accomplish as a new democracy, etc., etc. So my question is twofold. How is that investigation progressing into the politician of the opposition? Is it at an advanced stage? I know, I'm not quite sure. I think that's maybe if it is, are you looking to prosecute? If so, why so? If not, why not? Blah blah blah.
No, we will have to come back to you as and when, for an example, we reach finality around that issue. Okay. Right now, we're not at liberty to talk about the ongoing processes in relation to a case of that nature and other cases, of course, that were registered with us. But as and when we were ready, we'll certainly take you on board about where things are at. Now, a question is raised, I think, Bloomberg. Why do we have these cases, many of them in KZN? I think it's a difficult question to answer at this stage. And the reason why it is difficult is precisely because it's a different exercise altogether that would have to be conducted to arrive at the conclusion in response to the why question. It's not a policing matter per se, but indeed. It's something that has got to be looked into quite closely in terms of what are the actual dynamics there. Why do we have many, the manifestation of these cases, many of them there in excess of 13 thus far, around KZN. I think it's a different sort of study altogether that would have to be embarked upon. But having said so, of course, we have also seen incidences in other provinces. I think Media 24, you wanted to be clarified whether the other provinces was it murder cases of indeed the other cases in the other provinces are cases of murder that were alluded to. Now. I do not know the question of, there seemed to be a suggestion from Ms. Maten that we're dealing with ANC-related so-called political killings. And yet, in this very same presentation in KZN, we have spoken to other cases. For instance, the case of murder in Howick is a former IFP person. That's not an ANC person.
Sorry, I think perhaps my question was not clear.
The question of an NFP councillor, for an example, in Beckville, and that's not an ANC person. So. In other words, certainly I would not agree that this report is about narrowly ANC candidates per se, and so on. It's more to do with the cases that have been registered with us and cases relating to what is perceived as matters arising out of political processes. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks. Now, I gave you the last chance, Anderson. Okay. General.
Sorry, Minister, there was a question related to deployment. No, we will not be depleted. We did say that with the deployment that is going to be realized over the election period, normal policing is not going to be compromised, because what we are going to do, we are taking people, for example, from national head office, people from the provincial offices, to add on to the numbers that we have at station level. And in addition, yes, we will also have Metro Police or Municipal Police, as we have called. We will also call up reservists to ensure that we have got the numbers we require to police. And while we are a lead role player in this regard, we are working with our counterparts within the security cluster, the Justice, Crime Prevention and Security cluster, from a net joints perspective. So we will do what is required of us.
Thanks, General. Minister Alistine had asked the comparison.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, my apologies. In fact, that was one question. In fact, I have it here. Comparison 2011 and 2016. We have not done some analytical work around that in terms of comparison, for instance. So I think it's work that would have to be done also somewhere else in terms of just doing a comparative analysis. For instance, what was KZN like in 2011 and what it is like now in 2016 in relation to the election period, and what was the country like, generally speaking, in 2011 and what it is like now in 2016, and what are the factors at play and so forth. I suppose your question must also be married to the question that is raised by the beautiful gentleman next to you from Bloomberg. You may be right. You may be right there. Yeah. So, yeah. On the sorry. Yeah, because it should then be married to that. For instance, because if you were to conduct some research work from an analytical point of view, we should then be also concerned about what exactly is happening there and what are the factors influencing these kinds of developments and so on. And then looking at the varying sort of degrees of sorts between 2011 and 2016, and so it goes. I suppose that's really an ongoing work that would have to be undertaken. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Just gone 2 o'clock here with News Live. Good to have you with us. Coming up in your headlines at this hour, an ANC councillor has been shot dead in Port Elizabeth. Meanwhile, in Parliament, Police Minister Nathi Nhleko has just finished briefing the media on these alleged political killings. And the IEC has launched its National Results Operations Centre in Pretoria. And in your sports news, Kagiso Rabada, the golden boy, has stolen the show at the Cricket South Africa Awards. Another ANC councillor has been shot dead. The 40-year-old ward councillor was shot and killed last night in Walmart Township in Port Elizabeth. It's alleged that he was shot by two unknown men while he was dropping a lady at her home. His body was found by police with several bullet wounds, and the lady that was driving with him was also wounded but is in a stable condition in hospital. A case of murder and attempted murder has been opened. The Independent Electoral Commission has launched its National Results Operations Centre in Pretoria. Speaking at the official launch, IEC Chairperson Glenn Mashinini has said they will ensure that the voting, counting and results processes remain transparent. This in the interest of ensuring free and fair elections. Mashinini has also expressed disappointment in the exclusion of the NFP, adding that the IEC strives for optimum inclusion.